Good evening and welcome to this special mini StonesCast. We're recording this on the evening of Tuesday, the 27th of May. I guess the first thing just to acknowledge before we jump in and introduce our guest, though, is to acknowledge the news that came yesterday that the management team of Neil Gibson and Lee Jones have departed the club on a mutual consent basis. We have a cast planned for next week with Darren Linden and Don Wiley, where I'm sure we'll go into the depths of why that decision came about and what that means for the club. But obviously, pretty breaking news that I think we had to acknowledge up front. But today's special cast is not to talk about that news. Today's cast is to welcome the man whose goals
as soon as the season finished on the 5th, and me and my girlfriend went away on the 8th, so I was keen to sort of I could feel it towards the back end of the season that there's the travelling up and down and like the motorway driving, and then you're playing back to back 90s and like the heavy pitch, and just sort of the probably the last 2 or 3 games of the season it started to take a toll on me. So I thought, it'll be nice once the season's done to literally go on holiday, not even bring my Apple Watch with me, not bring my running trainers, and literally completely switch off and just sunbathe, drink, and eat crap food for literally 5 or 6 days, and then you come back and you get him sort of slowly back into it.
And dare I say, after the incredible scenes of the Halifax game, and I saw some videos of you in your football shorts with tray of shots and the fun in Hennessy's, I guess it was, getting over a sore head for a few days afterwards.
Yeah, no, literally when we were celebrating with the fans and what have you, we was in the changing room, and then I said to the gaffer, I said, oh, can I quickly go and see my girlfriend and my mom? He's like, yeah, of course, go and see your girlfriend, your mom, blah, blah, blah. And then I sort of didn't really come back in the changing room from then. So I was still in my match shorts and my socks. And then by the time I'd got into the clubhouse, everyone was like in either their own gear or like at least like the club tracksuit or something. But then it just sort of snowballed. It went from that to they'd done the awards to literally us having a drink, and then it was like, right, everyone's going to some Irish bar down the road. And like I said to him, I don't know what this place is like, but I've literally got my match shorts on. And Brett the kit man took, I think he took my tracksuit because I think he wanted all the lads' tracksuits back at the end of the season. So I literally, the club booked me a hotel, and then the next day I woke up with a banging headache, and the only clothes I had with me, because I had a change of clothes in my car, but my car was still at the ground. The only clothes I had with me was my match shorts, my Vanarama jumper, and my socks. And like what day would it have been? Because it would have been a Tuesday morning, because our
Tuesday
last game
morning,
was a
yeah.
Monday. People are like going to school and going to uni. I'm getting like the strangest looks in like a pair of shorts, because I have my shorts short as well. So short shorts, my match socks, and a Vanarama jacket and a Vanarama top, and I was just like, what is going on?
All
But
the
yeah,
signs of a good night, right?
yeah, a great night.
And just to kind of share your reflections on that Halifax game, and were you aware what was happening with Dagenham as the game was going on?
So it was one of those, like, we'd been in this situation a few times, probably coming to the back end of the season, where it was sort of like, right, if we win this or if we get a draw here, like we can be safe and blah blah blah. And I can't remember what game it was. I think it was Forest Green, where we sort of made the jump out of it, and it's like, oh, you
Mm-hmm.
know what, we could be okay here. And then we took a few defeats, and then it come to us and Boston away, um, and then we ended up losing it. And then there was a couple of games where we conceded early and sort of threw the game away early, and then it come to Southend. We knew we needed to say a draw, But then you sort of looked at it and you thought Altrincham are playing Dagenham, or Altrincham are going for the playoffs. They'll batter Dagenham. And then that was the game when they won. I remember
6-1,
being
yeah.
in the meeting just before we was going in the meeting, and it was like the flash scores on my phone was like 1-0, 2-0, 3, and it's like, what? It's like it's 4-1 at half time. Like, what the hell is going on? So that sort of put a dampener on it. But in terms of that Halifax game, we just knew that, listen, lads, we had like a chat between each other beforehand, and we just sort of said, listen, let's all look each other in the eyes today and just do what we can do. I'm not a massive talker in the changing rooms, but I sort of wanted to say my piece to the lads and just sort of be like, this is probably the last time that every single one of us are going to be in this changing room together, playing together. So let's sort of look each other in the eye now and say, you know what, I've got your back, and we're going to go and do what we need to do, regardless of what happens in the Dagenham game. At least we can come off the pitch at the end of this and say, you know what, we did it for each other, whatever the result was. So, but when we went 3-0 up, and you sort of get to the point in a game where, barring a disaster, the game's over. But we sort of come in at half time, and like during the game, even I was asking my mom and Phoebe, I was like, what's the score? What's the score? What's the score? And they were like, oh, Dagenham are winning, Dagenham are winning, Dagenham are winning. And officially at half time we was relegated, weren't we? Because they were winning 1-0, we were winning 3. And then it wasn't literally until the second half we come out, and it was the atmosphere was just a bit flat, because it was like, we're winning 3-0, yeah, but we're
going down.
relegated technically, yeah. And then it wasn't until you heard that explosion of like in the crowd, because obviously someone's flash scores had gone off, and it was like, oh my god, like, right, we're gonna survive.
Did
So, yeah.
you? Were you aware? I'm conscious that obviously it was a little bit of an anticlimax with the pitch invasion because people went a bit early. Were you aware of the chances that Dagenham were missing, like either at the time or shortly afterwards?
No, because I think one of the lads who was either injured or hadn't sort of played much this season, he had the Dagenham game on his phone. But you're talking, there was probably about 15 of us trying to crowd round this little iPhone, and I think his 5G kept going, so it kept freezing. So everyone was like, "Oh, what's happening with this? Blah blah blah. Oh, it's frozen. Blah blah blah." And then Cookie must have said something like, "There's 2 minutes left. There's 2 minutes left," and I was sort of on the outskirts of the crowd, so I was just sort of there, like, "Please, please, 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 please," and I wasn't aware probably until a couple of days later, the chances that Dagenham had missed. And I spoke with Matty Taylor. It was either close to after the game or a couple of days afterwards, and he said, he was the one that told me. He said, Dagenham had 22 shots, and you're just thinking, poof, wow, 22 shots in a game, and for them to not end up winning it. And it wasn't until I seen the extent of the chances they missed that you're just thinking, wow, it was written.
That's mad, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Let's rewind back then
Hmm.
to, what was it, October time,
Yeah.
and your initial loan move
Yeah.
to Wealdstone. How did that come about, and what were your first impressions when you came to Wealdstone?
How did that first come about? So the loan moves that I had offered to me, I had some crazy ones. I had the chance to go and play in Canada. There was a
Wow.
team that Oldham come to me, and there was like, there's a team in Canada that wants to take you on loan. So I was like, Canada. And then the other serious sort of candidate for loan was Scunthorpe in the league below. And then the only real sort of serious, there was little whispers here and there of other teams in and around, and Rochdale wanted to take me on loan, but obviously you being, I'm presuming, a southerner, like the rivalry with Oldham and Rochdale, I just thought, I've got a good, really love the fans at Oldham, and like I've played at Stockport, and I just thought I don't want to sour it by going to going on loan to Rochdale for the sake of, and then if it goes wrong, and then the other option actually was Scunthorpe, and I was heading to Scunthorpe, just literally based on the fact that it's closer. But then there was part of me that thought to myself, well, whatever the situation is or isn't at Oldham, I believe that, I know this level more than most people know this level. If I'm played, I knew I'd score 20 goals plus. And I didn't want to go into another league, say with Scunthorpe, score a load of goals, and then it sort of be discredited as such within the Oldham fan base or however you wanted to look at it. I sort of wanted to be like, right, well, I'm playing the exact same teams as you guys. And Wealdstone was just not the only choice, but just sort of the only serious choice, really. And I thought, I need to go and play and just be free to play for the rest of the season, play as many minutes, get as many goals as I can. And that's just sort of how it come about.
And you certainly hit the ground running with your debut in the FA Cup, scoring a hat-trick against Gosport Borough.
Yeah.
How did you find those first few games under Matt Taylor originally, and just kind of the buzz the relationships you started building with the squad?
Yeah, it was a strange transition as such, because obviously you've got to remember Oldham. I've played in full-time football since I came out of like non-league when I was 20. So you're talking the best part of 10 years. So obviously Wealdstone aren't full-time. So I had a case of where I'd train Monday, Tuesday at Oldham in the day, have Wednesday off because both teams are off on a Wednesday, and then I'd train on a Thursday night at Wealdstone. So it was strange at first driving down in the evening to train, and like you'd see lads coming in with their work stuff and stuff like that. And in a changing room when you first go in, I'm quite a bubbly person, but you still just sort of keeping your head down, trying to work out what's what and blah blah blah. And when I first met Matty Taylor, obviously I knew him because I'm a big Aston Villa fan, and I'd seen him score against Villa a few times where he broke my heart. But like he was a big bubbly character, and I think that sort of helped. Um, he's a youngish manager, and he's very. You can tell he's been a player and he understands, and like he wants to be involved in the banter, and he made like a very tight knit family. He was one of the lads. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't sort of the team and the manager. No, no, no. He'd be joining in the five-a-sides. He'd be doing the, and like I'd sort of go to Oldham some days and train, and I'd be like, it's crazy. Like when I'm at Wealdstone, like Matty Taylor's joining in the five-a-sides, and like he's good, like he's getting involved, and he's like slide tackling. So it was a strange transition, because it's like you're going from one club where to do it a certain way, and then you're going to another club and it's completely different. But how did I find it under him? I think he was what I needed at the time. He just sort of said to me, listen, I know what you are and I know what you bring in. And he made it as simple as possible in terms of, he said, your job is to be in front of that big white thing, the goal. And my job is to get the players in the team to cross the ball and put the ball in the box as many times as I can for you. And then your job is to put it in the net. And that's as simple as it was. And sort of when when um when I've my first game, obviously I couldn't have asked for a better game. You starting with a hat trick. It just sort of lays the foundations for what's to come. It makes the settling process a bit easier. I've been on loans before, and it's sort of, I always think to myself, you know what, you've got to try and score as early as possible, because the lads start respecting you a little bit more. It eases your nerves, and sort of, obviously I've never scored a hat trick on my debut, but to score a hat trick on your debut, it's just sort of like, phew, right, and then you can sort of build on that. So how was it under Matty Taylor? Really good, really, really good. And it was sort of the first time since I had Jim Gannon at Stockport, where a manager would ring me as well. Me and Matty Taylor would be on the phone for like an hour at a time, an hour and a half at a time after training, after a game. And if my missus would be like, Phoebe would be like to me, well, what do you speak about? And it's like, don't know really, just nothing, just like life stuff. It's not even like we're sitting talking about football. It would just be life things, and it really good is the answer. The short answer that I'm going for is really good.
Talking of the FA Cup, and I'm going to
Yeah,
pop up, assuming I can get the tech to work here.
yeah,
But of course, your hat trick at Gosport
yeah,
then took Wealdstone to Grimsby,
yeah,
and of course, this moment that ranked.
yeah, yeah. The best scuff I've ever scored, right foot as well.
So just
Yeah.
sort of talk us through again, that goal and that experience in the FA Cup. We'll obviously come on to Wickham, but the
Mhm.
Grimsby game in particular, how did that play out for you?
Well, that was a funny one as well because it was the first time that my girlfriend and her parents had come to watch me play. So I'm not sure. I think my girlfriend had already seen me play. I think, but it was the first time her and her parents were coming to watch me play. So I had her parents, my mom, um, my dad, and my nan, and then my nan's brother. And sort of the first half went by, and we were in the game. Sort of, they hit the post. They missed the
Missed
penalty, didn't
penalty.
they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
missed the penalty. And I just thought to myself, hmm. And then we come in at half time, and Matty was like, he was like, well, you know, how you feeling? And everyone was like, yeah, good. And he's like, well, exactly. Like, these lot are no better than what you are. And it sort of give us that belief in the second half. And then it got to a point I knew it was late in the game. And I thought to myself, oh no, this is going to be the first time that my girlfriend's family's come to watch me. It's going to go to penalties. And I bet, knowing my luck, I'm going to miss in the penalty shootout. Um, and then literally within a second, it's hard to explain when you score a goal. It's especially a goal like that. It was just like a blur, and then you look and it's gone in, and it's like, oh my god. And then I think when there was maybe like 10 minutes left, and I was just like, right, defend, defend. I think Sean Adaku come on, and I was like, right, forget attacking, we're defending. And then yeah, it was obviously a great moment for me, great moment for my family to see that, and then a great moment for the club getting into the was that into the second round?
I was into the second round, yeah,
Yeah.
and then the Wickham
Mm,
game. Just before we go into the Wickham game,
mm,
the period of fixtures around this FA Cup run
yeah.
and your arrival then saw a quite obvious upturn in fortunes and results picked up, and we started to climb the table.
Mhm,
What what do you attribute? Obviously, your goals, but
mm,
around the team, were there players that you enjoy playing with? You struck up a good relationship with Sam Ashford
mm,
and Anthony Georgiou. Were there
mm.
anyone else there that kind of you really enjoyed
Yeah,
playing with?
the thing with me and me and Ash, like, we got on well off the pitch as well. And I've had strike partners before where it's like brilliant chemistry on the pitch, but then off the pitch don't really speak. It was one of the first times I think I'd roomed with, since the Stockport days, roomed with my strike partner, and it was good. Like, I was scoring goals, he was scoring goals, we were winning. I think the style that we played suited both of us, and the style was very simple, really. It was, I had pace, Sam had pace, and we sort of got the ball forward as quickly as we can, not just aimlessly hoofing it up the field, but got the ball forward quickly into attacking areas. And then that suited players like Anthony Georgiou, a good cross of the ball. Jaden Mundell Smith crossing the ball. Who did we have on the right side at that time?
Is
I
that
can't
when
remember.
Elliot?
Whoever we had. Enzio on the right. He was playing right wing back, and it just suited how we played, and we got a lot of results from it. And don't get me wrong, along the way there was blips like I remember obviously one of my first games, the Ebbsfleet game, when we went 2-0 up and then ended up it being 2-2. That was a disappointing one. So we still were having blips, but for the whole, it felt like as a team it had clicked and we'd found how we wanted to play, and we sort of, you know, stuck to it, and everybody was on the right path. Everyone was on the right page, and sort of whoever came in just knew, right, this is how we're going to play. We don't waver from this. If a team's playing this certain way, then it was the thing with Matt, which I will say is he makes it very black and white for you. Right, we're playing against a 4, you press for a 3. You're playing against a 3, you press for a 2. So like everybody knew that, and everybody knew sort of even during a game how we'd adapt. And then on top of that, he's one of the lads. So it was a very, very good time.
Obviously, around that time, for most of your Wealdstone career, but especially in those first few months, almost everything you seemed to touch went
Yeah.
in the back of the net. And I hate to do it, but I'm going to talk us through. Hang on, let me share this. What happened here?
Oh, the Wickham one. And yeah. And you know what? Like, I can't even. It was one of those games where, like, don't get me wrong, I knew I'd had a great season and was having a great season, and like you're getting a lot more attention and blah blah blah. And I'm honestly not one of these people who's superstitious or puts a lot of pressure on himself for games and thinks I've got to do this and I've got to do that. But that Wickham game, in a way, I think I sort of built it up in my head to be something that it didn't need to be. It was sort of like, right, I've proved I can score goals at the level I'm at. I've gone and played Grimsby. I've scored a goal. Now, like a League One team, I'd really want to go and score against them. And like, no offense, but if that was, say, Halifax, I'd have probably tapped that in. But I just feel like I was so amped up and almost too eager in the game that it sort of come across in the game. I had a few chances and I just thought I was a little bit off the ball in terms of somebody needed to just sort of be like, right, relax. But again, the thing I liked about Matt was obviously we joked about it weeks down the line, but at the time he was just like, yeah, who cares? Yeah, you've missed. He's like, you'll probably miss another chance like that next season, next week, next month. You'll get another chance. That's the thing about you. You'll get another chance. And obviously, weeks later, we've obviously joked and said, "Well, um, cheers for getting us into round 2, and then cheers for getting us kicked out of round 2." Probably, but like we can joke about that now. But like at the time, looking back, it's an easy chance. But I'll probably miss another one of those worse in my career. But they come and go. They look worse. They look probably worse than they are. But yeah.
Did that not just the chance, but the Wickham game in a whole?
Mm.
We did well for
Yeah.
large parts of the game. Did the team come off with a feeling of not necessarily injustice, but maybe a chance had been missed there?
A little bit, because it's strange because me personally, I just sort of thought to myself, well, I've let the team down there. I should have scored, and that's the initial reaction and emotions that I've got when stuff like that happens. But I guess as a team, we did sort of think, you know what, they're top of League One flying, and they've had to bring on the cavalry to secure the game and end up winning the game. But we're battling for relegation in the National League. They're flying high. Obviously, ended up getting in the playoffs in League One. You know, for me, it's sort of after the disappointment of missing the chances and what have you. It just sort of thought to me, I thought to myself, we've beat Grimsby, we've held our own against Wickham. We shouldn't be scared of anybody. No offense in the National League. Like, who can we not beat, and why can't we beat them? So that's how what I took from it, really.
And after a few more appearances, as the year came to an end, I think your final game of the first spell was the Maidenhead game on Boxing Day.
Yeah.
The Boston game got called off. You went back to Oldham. You had a couple of games, I think, with Oldham when you went back there.
Yeah.
And then in sort of end of January, a month or so later, you returned.
hmm
Were you always going to return?
Um, again, it was a strange one. Like, I spoke to Steve, the
Steve
Steve at the
Boone.
club, Steve Boone, and obviously there was options in January to go to certain places and what have you, and it was really unclear, like, what Oldham sort of wanted to do. Did they want to bring me back to sell me on, or did they want to bring me back to play me, or did they just want to bring me back to sort of sit me there and have me a part of the squad? It was unclear. So, but I said to Steve, listen, Steve, at the end of the day, yeah, there will be options for me to go on loan other places or go permanently to other places. But I said, barring it being something, wonderful, or something that I'd have to turn around to you and say, look, even if I was at Oldham, like, I can't really turn that down, Steve. I said, I'm not going to go on loan to somebody in the National League who I would consider sort of on par with Wealdstone as such. So, I don't know. Say like Aldershot or I just thought what I would not go in the National League. You sort of had Oldham, who was already one of the big hitters, and then you've got Forest Green and York. You would say are the bigger teams, and I just sort of said to Steve, and obviously the league teams once the window's open, and I just said outside of that, Steve, like, you've got my word that if it is a loan, then you won't see me standing with like a, I don't know, a Braintree shirt or something like that. Like, I would be back at Wealdstone 100%. So
And when
it
you
wasn't as such always the plan, because it was, again, because I am contracted to Oldham. It was sort of on their terms. I didn't know what their intentions were with me, whether they wanted to keep me there, sell me, or send me back on loan.
and when you came back, I think I've got my sort of chronological order of events right here. I think on the Thursday, it was of course announced that Matt Taylor had then gone to Solihull, and
Yeah,
then Friday, almost to offset that sort of
yeah.
devastating news at the time, your return was announced. How did that play out? Obviously, you've spoken very much, very fondly of Matt and the relationship you
Mm,
had with him. How much
mm.
did you know of his departure, and how much did that change then when his departure was confirmed?
So I knew leading up to sort of whispers of go, because well, I went back to Oldham, um, and again, like, I didn't know whether or not I was coming back permanently or what, but I went back to Oldham for maybe, I think it was 3 games. Didn't start one, got took off at half time in the other, and then got took off at, say, 50 minutes in the other. So when the decision was made that, right, we're not going to sell you, you can go back out on loan, um, I'd sort of spoke with Matt, and Matt was sort of like, look, I want you back at Wealdstone, blah, blah, blah. And then them conversations went across a few days, and then I spoke with Steve. He was like, we'd love you back, blah, blah, blah. And then it switched from that to Matt told me about the interest from Solihull. And it was like you said, I'd almost near enough agreed to come back. And then the day before, he sort of said, I'm going to go to Solihull. And I was like, right. And then I spoke to my mom because obviously, I'm an only child and I'm a mommy's boy. So I said, what do you think? And she says, well, I know you really like Matt, and um, you've got a good relationship and things have gone well with you two playing with each other, but at the same time, he's going to do what's best for himself. You need to do what's best for you, and you can't follow each other everywhere. You're not you're not twin brothers. So I just sort of said, right, well, I know the team at Wealdstone. I give Steve my word, and I really wanted to get to 20 goals for the season, especially after I hadn't really had a crack at the whip at Oldham. I thought, right, I think I was maybe on 12, and I thought I want to get to 20 plus for the end by the end of the season. And the team that's going to give me the best chance of doing that will be Wealdstone because I know the lads. It's a familiar setting, and I sort of said when I got to Wealdstone, I want to keep them in the league and make them finish as high as we can and get 20 goals. And I thought, right, let's just stick to that. And that was that really.
And you did that. I was actually going to meant to sort of give you stats. I don't know whether you're aware of them, but 34 starts, 30, and out of those 34 starts, 31 of them you played the 90 minutes. And I know you've been described as, and I know from seeing your sort of TikTok videos that you are a tremendous athlete. And I think 3,000 plus minutes of football is testament to that. 20 goals and one assist.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got your target.
Yeah.
So yeah, you come back to Wealdstone. Matt Taylor leaves the day before. We then had I think the very disappointing defeat at Fylde, and then
Yeah.
Neil Gibson and Lee Jones come in.
Mm-hmm.
What was your reaction to a new management team, and how did that differ with from the way you'd worked with Matt?
It's difficult initially because, of course, when you have such a great relationship with a manager, and I've had it in the past, it's sometimes hard not to compare, and there's always that unknown, isn't there? I wasn't that familiar with the Welsh League, so I hadn't heard of Gaffer Neil beforehand. So then it's sort of like, oh no, like, and then we had the loss at Fylde, and it's like, oh no, like, now there's a new manager and Matty isn't here. And when you've got someone like Matty who's so larger than life and one of the lads, you're always going to have that period, especially when before you even work with Gaffer, you don't know him, and it's like, oh, is he going to be like this? Is he going to do this? Is he going to do that? But that transition was smooth, really. I spoke with the Gaffer and Jonah, and they were just sort of like, listen, we've seen what we've watched a few games. No, I think they said they've been watching since the Braintree game way back before. We want to sort of build the team around you scoring goals, and let's get you to 20 plus. And as long as we were on the same page with that, I was happy.
Their spell and that second half of the season from sort of January onwards. I think looking at the stats, it was like 8 wins and 8 defeats, but there were some tremendous highs, as you said, the wins over Forest Green, the good point at Barnet and what have you. But there were some real disastrous performances away at Tamworth, away at Rochdale, the Gateshead game, etc. What was that down to? We've spoken on the cast about like the resilience of the side, but it was real Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, it's hard to pinpoint like what it was down to. I think sometimes, and it's been a learning experience for me because I've been blessed in a way to be with Fylde when we went to Wembley twice, and then Stockport, and then, as in a way, Oldham. I've always been at the right end of the table and sort of either chasing the playoffs or chasing promotion. And I've just found sort of this season, especially when you're down there and you're in the trenches, there's such a thing as momentum when you're winning games, but then there's also a thing of momentum when you're losing games. And even me, I'm the most optimistic, positive person ever, but there's been games and times where we concede early and I'm like, oh, for God's sake, this is going to be a long day. And or you'll be in games, and rather than having that mentality of like, you know what, we'll get a goal soon, we'll get a goal, you're sort of thinking, I can't see where we're going to score from. So I think sometimes you can have momentum in different ways. So you get momentum with how you're losing, like towards the back end of the season. Like I said, there was big important games we had, and we specifically with the gaffer, with everybody said, let's keep it tight. The first 15 minutes, play this way, keep it nice and defensive and blah blah blah. And then we're conceding like 2 minutes and 3 minutes, and it's sort of like come on. And but at the same time, there was times where we were putting things together and building momentum the other way. And you sort of thinking, you know what, we could finish, forget relegation and the relegation zone. We could finish like 14th. And then it was strange in a way. You sort of take a loss and then it's like you've got a game Tuesday and that rolls into Tuesday again.
Yeah. I mean, we commented on the end of season cast that despite the fact that we stayed up by the skin of our teeth on 53 points, we're only, I think it was 7 points away from, as you said, like 13th, 14th, and that not that far off the last playoff place. Your return the second time round, I'm presuming you know this. A lot of getting you across the line was funded by fans.
Yeah.
Did that put any additional pressure on you to succeed?
Not as I wasn't sort of thinking of it as the season's going on. I think when I did come back, now the way Matt had us set up and played was not polar opposite, but different to how the gaffer set us up and our fundamentals of how we would play. So I think what game did I first score under the gaffer? I think it was Solihull against Matt, funnily enough. But then there was periods of games where I went sort of 5 without scoring, and I just sort of, you're thinking as a striker, oh, does this style suit me? Am I going to score as many goals? Am I going to look like I've gone on loan for the first half of the season, had a worldie, and then sort of just fall off and, only have 2 or 3 in my second spell? But, near enough under the gaffer, I think I scored. Well, if I had 12 in the first half, I got 8 in the second half. So it was a less return, but at the same time, I was still sort of near enough consistently scoring one every other game. So his plan, went to plan in terms of keeping us in the league and keeping me scoring and getting me over 20 goals. And I forgot the question, but yeah, it was fine.
Was there a point at any point during the season that you thought we were gone?
I think I would be a liar if I sat here and said that I've so just to break it down to you, the second half of the season we changed to training in the day. So the deal was for me that I had to come down at least, because of the travelling, I had to come down for at least one training session. So we changed to a Friday morning. So just to put it into perspective, I would do Friday morning, leave Manchester at 5 a.m., get to training at Wealdstone for 9. Some days I'd be late after leaving at 5. So get to training at 9, just after 9, train. And then my mum lives in Birmingham, so I'd drive from Wealdstone back to Birmingham for the Friday night, get up Friday morning, leave about 10, drive to Wealdstone, play the game, and then drive from Wealdstone all the way back to Manchester, which is like a good 3.5, 4 hours if there's no traffic. So
And you're doing
I
that
would be
week in, week out.
yeah, I'd be lying to you if there wasn't the period where we got beat 4-1 at Gateshead and then 4-0 at Rochdale, that I wasn't sort of sitting on the motorways some days just thinking like, what am I doing? Like, what is going on? Like, I had a few of them moments where it was like, this is going to be a tough job. But then we'd win the next week, I'd score, we'd play really well, we'd jump 2 places, and I'd be like, we've got this easy. So it was like a constant battle between the two.
Yeah. And for you personally, obviously this season has been a success and you broke that 20 goal mark and you've generally been prolific wherever you've been. But why did it work at Wealdstone as opposed to Oldham?
Um, it's hard. There's a lot of factors at the end of the day with Oldham are very blessed with the fact that they've got a big budget, they've got a massive fan base, a demanding fan base, some of the best, most passionate fans I've ever played under, um, and I believe even through the playoffs now you're seeing it where their crowd will have helped them a lot more than what they realise. But I think with Wealdstone, and I mean this in the nicest of ways to Wealdstone, is that I needed a club where I was going to go there and sort of be a bit of a big fish in a little pond and play and just sort of get the love that I needed, get back to enjoying playing every single week and have that confidence. I always knew to myself that, if you asked me to play in any team in League Two and in the National League, and I've genuinely hand on heart feel this to myself, if you give me 45, 50 games, I believe that I'll give you 20 plus goal return. But sometimes it's not as straightforward as that just happening. Teams can't always promise you, well, all right, then we're going to give you 45 goals, 45 games, because say at Wealdstone, there was times where I went 3, 4 games not scoring, and then in other teams, it's like, right, well, you're on the bench now, and you lose that momentum. I just needed to be sort of left to play, and then, oh, right, you've not scored, right, back out again, and that belief just sort of grows in you, and that it's a striker's and a player's dream, and that's sort of why it worked, and how I felt.
I'm conscious we've been going for nearly 45 minutes here, mate.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'll start bringing this to a close. But as you reflect on the season that's gone by, are there any particular highs, any particular lows that we haven't already covered that you kind of want to call out or reflect on?
Um, one of the highs, probably one of the highs for me was, weirdly enough, um, scoring the third goal at Gosport. It was a penalty, and I think it was just my mom that come to watch. And before the game, I'd missed a penalty in pre-season for Oldham, and notoriously, I'm not very good at penalties. I'm really not, and obviously, touch wood, I've not missed one this season. But I remember my nan said to my girlfriend, "Oh yeah, I missed him pre-season," and she's like, "Oh yeah, he's never been good at penalties." And it was just sort of getting over that duck in my mind that, no, you know what, nan, I actually am all right at penalties. And then just going from there, and that was a sort of real high for me. I think sometimes it's how you start that sort of kicks off how things can go. And I could have easily gone and played Gosport, not scored, come off at half time, and everyone's like, what have we done bringing him here? But just the start for me was a real high. And not so much that, the fan base and the people that I met at the club, and it was like a real tight knit, will do anything for you type club, really made my mom feel welcome, my nan, Phoebe. And that was a real high for me that, you know, oh, Wealdstone aren't Oldham and Wealdstone aren't Stockport. They don't have the huge fan base and the big bank accounts and the budget and whatever. But in terms of making a proper family tight knit club, I couldn't name a better club that I've played under, honestly.
Fair play. And I'll finish with one question that
Yeah.
you probably can't answer, but I'll ask it anyway. What
Yeah.
next for Alex Reid?
What next? Enjoy my summer. I've got Bali booked in June, end of June. Hopefully I'll go away on the 12th, so hopefully by then, I'm all sorted with a club. And what next is just sort of topping this season. You know, I started in October this season. I sort of, you can say, had January off. So next season, wherever I am, whether that be in the National League, in League Two, wherever, I just want to crack that 30 mark, get 30 goals for a season, play with a smile on my face, and see where it takes me.
Amazing. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Really
Yeah,
appreciate you giving up your time to come on. And enjoy your summer.
yeah, I will
Um,
do.
hopefully, we don't have to watch you scoring a goal against Wealdstone anytime in the future. But yeah, all the best for whatever comes next. And like I say, really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, top man. Honestly, really enjoyed it.
Brilliant. Cheers,
All
buddy.
right, then. You have a good summer as well. Take care.
Cheers, mate.